I'm just going to crop it.
Yeah.
This is important. Okay, so we're going to start. Okay, now you can say
Hi, I'm John Walker Moosberger. I'm Javi Galarza.
Jake Bozer.
I'm Claire Farouk.
And welcome to our podcast. We're going to talk about 10 articles that we tried to put in some semblance of order from the green page.
So our first article for today is going to be theater as a community. And in this article, a bunch of artists and professors who teach musical theater, acting, so forth, were asked how being part of clubs, drama clubs in high school affected their lives and what it did for them. And I agree with a lot of them by them saying that it provided a home and a safe space for kind of the uncool kids who wanted to spread their art, I guess.
I agree. I think that theater definitely provides like a safe haven for a lot of people who are, especially like in adolescence, when we're definitely going through a bunch of different things that we've obviously never experienced before. I think middle school and high school are hard. So like when a place like theater where you can just kind of be whoever you want and or even like escape and not be who you want, really provides a safe space. But I also think that it's a little bit exaggerated. Like I might have just been perceiving myself as someone who wasn't as weird as like your average theater kid, but like I never felt like a weird person in theater. I just thought I was doing cool shit. So I don't always feel like I didn't feel like a weirdo in high school.
Yeah,
maybe in middle school. I feel like more in middle school than in high school. I felt like a weirdo.
I was a weirdo in middle school, but I was a weirdo nerd in middle school. Not
Still a weirdo.
Still weird.
Yeah. I went to an engineering high school, so I didn't really have the whole like high school theater
Friends.
experience.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks, John Walker. But like I definitely understand the whole theater as an escape kind of thing, and like that's part of why I wanted to go into theater was because like I would see shows and it would like take me to different places. So it's like I definitely understand the whole theater as a community, even though I never actually like until I got here had never personally experienced that.
Yeah, I think what's cool is that I think what theater does for a lot of us, agreeing with Annette Tanner, who is one of the highlighted interviewees. She says that I've seen theater connect students both within a room and across the globe. What's created as a result is a diverse community of aspiring artists, all thanks to the bonding power of theater. And I think that's so true. It's because it's a storytelling device. So I feel like everyone can relate. Whether you agree with the story or you enjoy the story, everyone can listen to a story and understand what's being said.
Yeah. And that definitely also relates to being across the globe.
Yeah.
Maybe not across the globe, like technically, but like I know a lot of competitions relate like people from certain districts that haven't really met, and they meet in one place because they both are theater people, and they're able to just outreach.
I think it's really interesting that the author chose to include mostly people with an educational background in theater. I think that it's probably a stronger sentiment that theater is kind of a community, and it's certainly one that I experienced in high school, but I'd also kind of be curious to see if you interviewed people who were primarily working in commercial theater or in theater, at least in a large regional theater, but less focused on the educational side. I wonder if there would be a change in perspective.
Yeah, that was interesting. Also, shout out Gary Klein, acting musical theater, Carnegie Mellon School of Drama, getting interviewed like the boss he is.
Good?
I
Okay.
think it's interesting that like how much in this article they talk about like theater nerds and how it's like nerds in theater, because that's like I don't perceive like a theatrical community as necessarily being like nerds, but that may just be because like my only experience has been Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Like the not nerds here.
Yeah. Or like.
Well, I think it's also like how you define, and this is getting nitpicky, but like how do you define a nerd? Like, is a nerd just someone who's passionate about what they do and like very devoted to it? Because like studying is like whether you're studying acting or whether you're studying like computer science, you're still studying. Like it's definitely at a different caliber and a different type of focus. But like a different way you use your brain, but it's still studying and being passionate about like a very specific thing.
Okay, so our next article is about AMC's effort to appeal to millennials and allowing texting during movies. Now, Adam Aaron, who works at AMC, he's the head of what?
He's that.
Yeah, he's the head of AMC Entertainment. He has only had that position for about 4 months and already is changing the way we watch movies. He describes this stunt of letting people text during movies as a way to just let people live their lives. He describes telling someone to turn off their phone the same way as if you were going to tell them to like cut off their arm or do something that they would never do. And yeah, I don't agree with that, actually, because I think that it's... I was always raised to, like, turn off my phone during a movie and, like, just focus on what was happening on the screen, because it is, like, also a piece of art that I'm watching, and people around me need to, like, enjoy it as well.
I just think this entire thing's really stupid. I mean, because, like, if people want to text during a movie, they're going to. It's not like movie theaters really enforce rules like that often. Like, they don't have people sitting in the theater waiting for a phone to pop out. So you're like, nope, you're out. So, I don't know. I just think it's really dumb that this is even, like, a debate. Like, if people want to use a phone in a theater, they're going to. And, like, that's just the way it is. And you can keep showing those little ads that are like, this is the same as a baby crying, it's really disruptive. People are still going to use their phones. So, like, I don't know. It just seems dumb to me. But, you know.
I always find it funny to see what people think are putting millennials off from things that were popular for the baby boomers. And for me, going to the theater is, first of all, a hassle because it's a half an hour away by bus. And it's just a lot easier to just pull it up on my computer. Which is, everything is free on the internet.
I don't know. I sit on a weird thing because I love going to the movie theater. I grew up going to the movie theater. I think it's definitely because I grew up in an area that holds a lot of the population's a lot of more like older people. Shout out South Florida, all my fans out there.
Oh, wait.
But I also think that to start like this trend of using your phone in the movie theater could only lead to some stupid, horrible repercussions of like not only using it in the movie theater, but it's giving permission for people to use it during speeches, during anything that's being broadcast. So I think that's just setting a bad precedent for like theater etiquette in general, not only like in movies but also in other venues. And I also think that it's really interesting that the man who was doing all this is also a millennial and is new to his position. I think there's a lot to say. So it's like kind of like when we did our production calendar, like, and we were like, it's a great production calendar, and we were like, oh, we have to change all these things. But then at the end of the day, you realize like, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the moral of the story is like, don't tell people to start using their phones because it's just going to set off this roller coaster of doing a bunch of things. And I also think I hate being. First of all, we're not millennials. We're Project X or Project Z or whatever. We're like the next generation Z or whatever, like the next generation. And also millennials are not the only ones who go to the movies. Like younger people go and older people go. And I think like respecting people in a public space is definitely something to be considered. And very typical of
millennials. If you can't go 2 hours without checking your phone, you probably have better things to do than going to a movie theater.
It's also not just millennials that use their phones at theaters.
Exactly.
It's like old people that don't know how to turn their phone off, and then it starts ringing, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's just like
the grandkids calling.
Yeah. I just think the consensus is to like leave it the way it is.
Yeah, because then that opens doors to.
Well, yeah. So then they figured out that that is in fact stupid, and they got a lot of backlash for like this idea that they would start allowing people to use their phones in movie theaters. So they retracted that, and they've made it clear that, I'll read the quote, There will be no texting allowed in any auditoriums at AMC theaters, not today, not tomorrow, and not in the foreseeable future. So they went from, like, being like, oh, maybe, to being like, no, never. So I also think this is interesting because a lot of the backlash they got was from millennials, and, like, it came from social media. So, like, they were trying really hard to, like, pander to millennials and be like, oh, you can use your phone if you go to the theater. But now it's like, they were all like, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, so what Claire's referencing is our next article. It's called After Social Media Outcry, AMC Changes the Tune on Texting Experiment. And basically, I agree. I think he looked, well, first of all, I think he looked like an idiot on a national or even international scale. I guess in an attempted like business, like something to make them better and like more appealing to the masses, he shot himself in the foot and made him completely unappealing. I would love to like follow up on his. I hate to say this, but like just because I'm what is it? A citizen? A cynic?
Cynic.
Yeah. When I'm like, I would love to see how long he lasts in this position. This is like a really big mistake. Like he went on national media and published like, oh, we're totally changing this, and then his idea showed just that he was so off base.
Well, I'm sure he like. The crazy thing to me is that I'm sure there was a whole legal department and 8 million people poring over this idea to make sure that it was an okay idea, and nobody said, "Oh my God, this is fucking dumb."
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder like how the chain of command I just wonder how that chain of command like works at AMC because
he's the CEO.
Yeah, but like I wonder who under him is.
Yeah.
Like, are they afraid of him?
Are they allowed to?
Yeah. Are they allowed to speak out? Because like I think it's kind of an obvious thing, especially to like even young people who have their phones in front of them all the time, except for in class. Even know that like it's just not a solid plan, and I think
it was also like he says you can't tell a 22-year-old to turn off their phone. That's not the way they live their life. I don't think like he's not thinking about everyone else. Like I think he's literally just talking about himself personally. Like I can't live without my phone, so like neither can anyone else. But like that's not the way to like generalize. Like you don't do that.
Yeah, I think that ends up just like by generalizing like that and being like low-key kind of offensive and like rude about it. Like, oh yeah, they can't live without their phones, like cutting off their arm and just asking them to turn it off.
AMC.
I think that ends up like alienating a lot of your audience because then people are like, oh well, fuck you, like.
Yeah, and also like if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to the movies. Oh wait, people are gonna be texting there.
That's true.
Like, that's gonna be noise. Like I don't want to go to the movies. Like that pushes me away.
Yeah, because I mean, like everything they've been pushing for years is like how annoying it is when people are texting in the movies, and now they're like no one. You've been telling us for years that it's annoying as shit. Like, we're not going to go back now that it's, like, allowed.
And I also think it goes back to, like, this whole etiquette thing of, like, exactly, you've been telling people for so many years and, like, why, like, for the most part, I think most people listen. Like whether they turn it off or they turn it on vibrate, I think that's, like, the new trend is to really turn your phone on vibrate.
Yeah.
But, like, turning it, just, like, silencing your cell phone is just, it's a respect thing. And I think if, like, you give up on the respect, especially with a generation that's still young, like, imagine what the world will be like in 30, 40 years when just, like, you keep reinforcing that respect isn't necessary to your fellow people, like, to your surrounding people.
I mean, I don't think I've ever actually turned my phone off for a movie. I just put it on vibrate because it's easier, but it's, it's always on vibrate.
You just don't use it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big deal. Like, it vibrates in your pocket and you turn it off 10 seconds later. It's a minor thing. If you got right in front of my face.
Exactly.
Okay, so the next article we're going to talk about is Hollywood's gender divide and its effect on films. So this article mainly deals with the Bechdel test, and I think this was I've heard of the Bechdel test like a million times before, but I think this was really good that it was posted on the PTM blog because I think a lot of people had not heard of it. And so basically the idea of the Bechdel test is that it analyzes the script of a movie or like a TV show or something. And if there is a scene that has at least 2 women in it, and they're talking about something to each other, about something besides a man, then it passes the Bechdel test. And this article says about 40% of films don't pass, which is amazing, considering it's such a incredibly low standard, and, like, it's so easy to do. but like so many movies don't pass the test.
And it's funny because I'm looking at this and it's saying that with an all-male writing team, 53% of the movies fail the test, and with an all-women writers, 100% passed. So it's just men to their own mind.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they talk about like rather than generalizing a sexist system, filmmakers like unintentionally write about themselves or like write what you know, and like how generations have always been told to like write what you know, and because the field is very male dominated, that's what it ends up like being about. But I also think that it's like if you stop and like think about if you're truly analyzing like the psyche of like a woman and like their life isn't surrounded by a man, like or not their life doesn't revolve around a man. And yes, in like some stories, like I'm sure it's important that you show like especially in like some period pieces and stuff, like when life was more so like generally accepted that it was like a thing that like the man was below the woman, like the woman was below the man. Like it's important to show that like women talking about men when men aren't present, but also to show that like women still have brains of their own. Like they don't always have to be talking about like you know what I mean. Make like some sort of effort. Like just show like what real life is.
Well, I mean, the hope would be eventually it's not even an effort, and it just kind of
like
comes.
a thing. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of depressing to see it all and just realize that this is the incredibly, incredibly low bar that we're setting, and we're still just failing absolutely miserably.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how many, like looking at the little collage picture they have, how many of these movies that fail are, like, children's movies. Because it's just something you would never really think about. Like, they have, like, Cars and Ratatouille and, like, Finding Nemo. And you don't really think about it because they're not, like, obviously male characters, it's just like the voices, but like it's almost entirely male characters in like Disney movies that I don't know. It's just interesting. You never really think about it, but then once you actually like analyze it, it's
kind
really
of
amazing.
dangerous to like to show these movies to kids because they're like the stereotype is being like enforced.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's like you know when like you think of like art school and things, like you think like oh like or like the stereotype that like art is for girls and like sports are for boys, you know, and like Hollywood in general is like it's acting and like theater and things like that. And I think that like it's so interesting that even though it's like stereotypically like art and film and theater and stuff are like more feminine things, like it's still run by a man and like a man's world. And I just like I don't know whether that's like it's definitely not like a good thing. I don't know. It's just interesting that like the idea of what it is and then like the reality of what it actually is so different and still so run by a man.
Yeah.
And that like I think that it's like not just in film but like in live theater too, like that whole thing with Waitress, and this is like the first all-female writing team like is it ever or like for so long, and like how did that take so long to happen?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense, especially with the stereotype that like women are generally more artistic. I don't know. It's just an interesting thought.
It's also this is happening mostly in the U.S. Like European studios are far more progressive, as explained here, and it's just our society that's really enforcing.
I mean, to put it in perspective, like Germany's best filmmaker going into World War II, which is not exactly a moral high ground, was a woman.
Yeah.
And so pretty celebrated person. And we're still stuck in 40, 50 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In a country that I hope is doing a little better than Nazi Germany on the eve of World War II.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next topic we're going to talk about is it's about Hollywood's advanced digital facelifting, and then they asked like the question is, do we even need actors? I think it's very interesting, and I think it's really cool that technology has become so advanced that you literally the idea that you don't even need an actor to like produce a film is really cool. But I also think it would completely and totally. I can't tell if like the article is in jest and like saying like, oh, our technology is so cool that where we just don't need it, or like I can't tell if they're being serious. Like, oh, like what if we just don't use actors?
It's like PR, so they're probably being fairly. It didn't strike me as something that the author had thoroughly explored as a possibility, but I don't think they're in jest.
Yeah, because like I think that kind of just, I mean, especially as someone like in theater, like that kind of infuriates me to like to diminish like this idea of an actor to a machine or like a technology. It kind of goes back to like the like artificial intelligence and things like that almost, and like a human. I will always believe a human has like at least one thing over a machine or like a technology.
And I remember watching the last Fast and Furious movie, and the last scene when Vin Diesel looks to the left at Paul Walker. This was filmed after he had died, and Paul Walker looks, and the image on his face is CGI. It's not Paul Walker's face, and it just left me with such an uncomfortable feeling, and like I felt like it wasn't because it wasn't him. It just made me like completely go out of the movie. I was just like not in it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think in a situation like that where you like absolutely know that it's not real, I think that's just like you said, that'd just be super uncomfortable. And I think if this became like a regular thing that they actually like started replacing actors with like CGI, then I don't know. I feel like that it would just kind of defeat the whole purpose of like movies in general. Yeah, because I mean, like you can't really connect with CGI the way that, especially if we're talking about like in the aspect of theater, like one of the things that makes theater great is that you're like really connected with the actors and like really feeling what they're feeling. So I don't know. I think that's why it's so baffling, especially to us, thinking about this, about how they could possibly think that they could ever think
like it's interesting to me to use Star Wars, which came out recently, as an example. They went back to a lot of practical events or effects that they kind of lost in the prequels.
Yes.
Which, for me, I kind of heard they were doing that, and I appreciated it because the prequels, some of the CGI effects were really, really questionable. But I'm also kind of on the fence about it because the CGI they did honestly looked better than some of the practical effects, just because in the way that it moves, in the way that they're able to create a character that goes beyond this foam structure that they've strapped onto someone's shoulders. Yeah. And I honestly found myself noticing it less when they were doing it as CGI, which is like, it was a really interesting thing for me because it kind of shows how far we've progressed and also kind of raises the question, if we can't replace actors now, give it 10 years, give it 20 years. It's a lot of people out of it. We're not going to be changing people's smiles anymore. Like, you're going to be able to go in and change someone's face. I mean, the camera that just came out, that you can change the focus and everything. And, like, you're going to be going out and do one-take movies, and then you go sit in the studio for 6 months and you pull the movie together.
Yeah, and also like you're saying that changing someone's face, CGI can literally reverse Botox someone, and I think that's just so stupid because like if an actress or an actor that has gotten like plastic surgery can't move their face in a certain way, like just don't give them the job. Just
Botox.
But I feel like CGI does like the acting for them in a way, and it's just annoying.
I think it'd be interesting to if someone completely produced a movie in all CGI and you didn't know it was in CGI, what people's reactions would be. And like if you did that and then you did the same exact movie with like all real actors.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you bring up an interesting point of like the blind study.
Yeah.
I know recently when The Hobbit was released, it was released in 60 FPS, and they made a big deal out of it, and it came out and people hate it. I mean, I did.
I watched it in IMAX and I was like, I can't watch this.
I hate watching things in less than 60 FPS. Like, for me, watching, movies are okay. Movies are okay because you get a lot of, the camera is able to blend a lot of the frames together. But I can't stand watching anything that's created on a computer. I love watching it at 60 FPS just because it makes it look a lot smoother to me. But I think there was a lot of backlash because it was, publicized at 60 FPS that I don't necessarily know would have been there. I don't know. It's something interesting to me to look into. How much of it is blind versus
Okay. So the next article we're going to be talking about is About Being a Female Technician by Emma O'Grady. So this article basically lists a whole bunch of stuff that could potentially happen to you if you were a female theater technician. And it was really interesting for me reading this list because, like, I can definitely relate to a lot of these. And I think it's really interesting to look at this article from our perspective because in our class, like, it's like our class is primarily female DPs. It's like 2/3, right? I think somewhere around there. So, and like we have like a bunch of our TDs this year are female. So it's really interesting.
And last year too.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see like that sexism still does exist, and like I don't relate to all these, but like there's definitely some that I can recognize. Like, for example, when loading or emptying a van, you get, "Are you sure you're okay carrying that? Here, I'll take that. Let somebody else do that." That I'm not too much opposed to though because I don't like carrying things, but like I've definitely gotten that multiple times whenever lifting anything. So.
And I like to be honest, like I have like asked like, "Oh, do you need help with that?" Like just because I don't know,
It's really like it's an unconscious thing.
Yeah, I don't try to do it. It just happens.
And I think it's also
I'm
something
sorry, no,
that
it's just like, but it's not so much that like if I saw anyone carrying someone like something heavy, I would ask them like if they need help. But
and it doesn't justify it.
Yeah, not at all.
It doesn't justify it, but it's something that I do, and I'm getting better at it, and I catch myself a lot where I go, okay, maybe she's fine, she's got it, or he's got it, he's fine. Like just because it's not something that I need to step into. Sometimes you do need a hand carrying things.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of these, as I said, a lot of this I don't really see that much firsthand at Carnegie Mellon because like so many of like the Carnegie Scenic staff is like females, like Simone and like Kimberly and Monica, and then like in our class we have like Helena and Lauren. It's like
you can probably lift way more than me.
Yeah. No, it's just like a lot of this I can definitely see realistically happening, but so much of this just doesn't seem like it would happen here. But I mean, if that like. I'm sure it could happen like some other place that isn't as accepting.
Yeah, and I'm reading here. It says one of the things that like happen is being told that you're being bossy, and that's like something that I have seen go on here. Like sometimes people take a woman being just doing her job and doing what she's supposed to do as being bossy, and that's just like not right. Like, she's just doing her job, like she's doing what she's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think it's also, I don't know, I think that one kind of like, I don't know if that one so much is just about women, because I think anyone who's being bossy, like, I think people will comment on it. Not being a woman, I really don't know if, like, if it's ever, like, more towards a woman. I also was having the whole idea of, like, your whole life you're always taught to, like, be polite to women. Like, I don't know, like, men are always taught, I mean, like, it's always been, like, like, it's always been a thing, like, that chivalry is, like, a man being like nice towards a woman, and like it's just like it ingrains in your head from like when you're very young to like open the door for women, to help women lift things, to get help, like, you know what I mean? And it's like I don't know if that's like when you step into the workplace, if it's like I don't know if it's a flaw or if it's like because like I would help a man out with something too, but like I think like subconsciously, and I'm not even like a heterosexual man, like I think subconsciously I do look to help women more than I do look to help a man, and like it's I don't know if it's a flaw or if it's like. It's just, I don't know if it's something that needs to be fixed. I think when it turns negative is when it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I would ever be, like, me personally, I don't think I would ever be offended by someone offering to help me carry something.
Yeah.
Because, like, I am weak, so I can't carry stuff, but, like, I know other women definitely can, like, handle themselves.
Yeah, and it also goes with who you're asking. Like, they might react in, like, such, like, a way different than how you would react. And that just also affects.
I think there's also like a difference between me carrying a box and Claire carrying a box, and me going, "Oh, Claire, do you want me to carry that one?" It's like the toolbox. Claire can carry a toolbox,
right?
Pretty handily.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm good though.
Yeah, I was gonna
say. But yeah, no, I mean, as long as people aren't like rude, I don't know. I don't see the problem. Like, it's nice to be polite. Like, you can offer to help anyone carry.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be rude or offensive.
kinds of.
I think it's just
incentives.
opening up it like to the idea of like if you're gonna offer, like be conscious of like who you're offering things to. Like first of all, like know your crew, know who you're working around. Like if someone's gonna get offended by something, stay out of their way.
Yeah.
But also like if you're gonna ask to help someone lift something, don't just subject yourself to only helping women just because like you think a man can do it. Like help a man too. Ask people, do you need help? But make it open to everyone.
And also like realize that like people get jobs for a reason. Like they went through an interview process. Like it wasn't like they just like got someone off the street. No, like there's a reason why they're hired.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Hobby.
In conclusion, just don't be rude.
Yeah.
Don't be an asshole.
Speaking of not being an asshole,
How to survive working on an underperforming team. This is something that near and dear to our hearts here at Carnegie Mellon students, because we spend a lot of time working on teams.
Yeah.
Some are extremely high performing and get an incredible amount of work done and produce some really incredible work. Some of which aren't as successful, are a little bit underperforming and still get incredible work done, and some that kind of just crash and burn.
yeah.
Reading
Reading this article, especially like the first headline, it says, in general, people are poorly educated to deal with workplaces. And like, I just had to take a step back for a second and be like, thank God I'm at Carnegie Mellon studying theater with Molly, because literally every class I feel so much better about like where I stand in the workplace and like how to deal with people, and like it also helps you keep in check. And like I think one of the most important classes and like successful classes of the year has been that meta skills class. with Molly.
Yes.
Definitely.
Not only because like she's just like such a professional when she needs to be a professional, and like also accommodating when she's like needs to be accommodating, and like just a great educator in general. But like the things that we learn, like the shit that no one teaches you but you need to learn, people need to learn. Like it's sad that people are poorly educated to deal with workplaces, because the article brings up that most of what you do, like nothing is like no one sits in a little corner all day and just works by themselves for the most part. Like you have to interact with people at some point throughout your day, and whether that's like in the workplace or at home or getting a cup of coffee in the morning, like you need to have those like people meta skills that like that help you interact in life. And I think that's where like people fall off the boat. Like
Definitely in theater, it's so important because you're constantly working on a team. You're constantly working on a creative team, production team, producing team, operations team, and I don't know. I kind of get really upset when team members who don't like pull their slack get credit.
Yeah,
That really upsets me.
The article broke up like how to work on like a bad team into like 3 different things that you should do, and I think I agree with 3 of the things, but I also feel like you shouldn't approach it as like I'm the great one on the team and everyone else is bad. So the 3 things that they said, which I agree with, one is definitely create a sense of shared mission, and we learned that in Molly's. It was on the final exam. But
I think that's a really like. Creating a sense of shared mission is something that I like try to do a lot in groups. Not even like within theater, but whenever I have a group to do anything. If you've ever tried to motivate a group of high schoolers to do anything without having a mission, it's like having to tie line to every single one of them and then keep them in a straight line while pulling them forward.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult.
Having a common goal is like usually the best possible situation. As long as everyone has like a clearly defined goal, then usually everyone will try to work towards it. Sometimes there's still people who are not just not about
And
doing
also
work.
finding a way for everybody to feel like they're actually contributing to their goal.
Yeah. Well, that's another point to say is help your teammates find their roles. So I think that's definitely.
I didn't like the phrasing of that one. I didn't like the help your teammates find their roles. Like, I don't think it's their roles. I think we should all be creating like everyone's role. It almost felt as if like, again, like you're the best one and like you should be like helping people. Like you're good at this, so you should do this. I'll be the leader, but you do this. I don't know. It didn't. I agree that like it says that a fundamental problem with teams is that not everyone is equally well suited to every role within it. But I don't agree. I think that's a blessing and like a kind of a beautiful thing about a team is that everyone does have their strengths, and like if you're good at working on a team, you'll voice your strengths and also acknowledge the things that you suck at. and like need help with, and that's like where someone else who has that strength and like who has your strength as a weakness and your weakness as a strength, like
And
I don't know.
And speaking of strengths and weaknesses, it says here like someone who's not as conscientious might view the project so much differently than someone who like doesn't cut corners and they're like so like
There's a line.
Yeah.
There's a line between we must tick every single box on this project, or it won't work if we don't tick every single tiny little box that's from point A to point B. Every single tiny little box has to get checked, or it won't work at all. Like there's a line between doing that and
so like
just
having someone who's not as high strung might be good to have on your team.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like being lazy and being not helpful.
Yeah.
Or being lazy and not helpful are the same thing. Being like lazy and being laid back and like not
And there's also a difference with not knowing that you're not being helpful and purposely not helping.
And that's the whole thing about communication. If you feel like someone's not pulling their weight, there's a way to say, hey, pull your weight in a professional and like not abrasive attacking way. Like you can say it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And I think the whole point of like being on a successful team is being able to have those open like lines of communication. And then the third thing they talked about in this article was engage a mentor. And I think that's great, I think specifically in like an educational environment. Especially because like we're here to learn and like a lot of people need help and like we need help on almost like all our things and like it's great and we have a great faculty to go to. But I don't know about in the workplace. It talks about like find a person in your organization, so I'm assuming like it within their business is what they're talking about. To voice concerns and like find what's the issues and like go to fix it with and help someone who's good at their job and like I don't know. I think we're all young and like we haven't worked in many jobs, but like I think people higher up in these organizations don't have the time to sit there and be like help you with a project if they give if they assign
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I'm so sorry Claire didn't show up to the meeting
exactly.
today. It'll
like,
be okay.
Exactly. Like delegating is a real thing. People higher up in these businesses like they have other things to do and other things to do. Like that's the whole point of
they
delegation.
Have their own team members, not
exactly. So like if you're assigned something, it's because you've been trusted to do it. So like whether I don't know, it's this double standard of like yes, you should like find a way to like get your teammates to help you, but also if like they're not going to help you and there's no way they're helping you, you need to suck it up and do it. Like, you gotta figure it out, because at the end of the day, you're getting the grade, or you're getting the job, or you're not getting paid, and you're not getting the job, and you're not getting the grade.
Which is what Molly said in class. She was like, "Suck it up and do it."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's also one thing to go to a professor in an educational environment where it's like, okay, everything in this environment is designed to evaluate us, on a personal level, how well we are doing. And part of that is being able to communicate with our teachers. Hey, in this group, person X is not pulling their weight. This is how do we approach this? How do we, in a way to, both save yourself and also try and improve the quality of the group.
Yeah.
That I think in a professional environment, it's already uncomfortable enough to go to your professor and say, hey, my friend is, not pulling their weight. Like, what can we do? It's, scary enough, because you don't want to see anyone fail.
Right.
But to do that in a professional environment where it's like someone's job is on the line is even scary.
Yeah, I agree. And it also becomes, I think it becomes, like, the stakes are just so much higher in that. Like, yeah, I agree. The stakes are so much higher when it's a real job.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's so important to, like, learn it in an educational setting first, so that you're, like, prepared to do it professionally.
Exactly.
I think it's also, like, we talk a lot about, like, the failure of our education system to prepare us for things, and, I think that there was definitely room in our system to find some time for Molly to just talk to everyone in the U.S. to make my life a little easier.
Just never go on like a national tour.
Exactly.
Get her own game show.
You can do like a TED Talk.
Okay.
All right, so next article we're going to do is 5 must-have apps for college students. My top 5 apps for college students are whatever you need, Venmo, and whatever else you need. Venmo's important. Everything else, the whole point of apps is that you get to choose the ones that work for you.
Yeah. After reading this list, Venmo is definitely on the top.
Explain to people like what.
So Venmo is an app
A blessing.
Venmo is pretty much like an online wallet where you can pay other people, and it's through Facebook, and you're able to pay other people through their accounts from your credit card or your debit card, and they can pay you back as well. And it's just a way to be able to pay each other and pay certain things.
Yeah,
basically one-click money transfer.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So easy.
I also would like to point out that who wrote this article is Megan Hines, editor, writer, traveler, shoe obsessed, while judging people on how they use their versus their on social media. She enjoys eating anything, literally anything, with sriracha and binge watching HGTV. So, I don't know. Take that as information on who's writing this article. I think that the other apps offer, like written about, is iFlipped, Priority Matrix, which is like this. It looks kind of cool. This like great organizational thing. I think it looks a little complicated for like what I have to do. I'm definitely
Molly would probably like it.
Yeah, I'm definitely like a handwrite in your planner kind of guy.
I'm kind of floated all around.
Yeah, but it basically breaks it down into basically like we're talking about Priority Matrix, but it basically is a prioritizing app. And it breaks it down into a matrices, and like the 4 matrices are critical and do now, critical but do later, not critical but do now, and not critical and do later. And then within that, you can like plug in what it's due and like the times you should be doing and things like that. It sounds kind of
color scheme.
Yeah, it sounds kind of interesting and the format looks great. I just think I don't have the time to like sit down and
actually type in.
You know what I mean? Like I think that is a low priority on my list, is typing things in. And then another one is called Stop, Breathe, and Think.
I want to get this.
You want to get it? I don't, because like I think it's all about like meditating and taking like a breath. If I'm meditating, I don't want my damn phone in my hand.
But I think it's also it's not just because I can use it for like maybe 2 times and like just take what I learned from like how to meditate, how they taught me how to meditate from this app, and then just use it on my own. But I just want to experience like what makes it so nice to.
Well, I tried like the sleeping alarm clock app thing.
Sleep cycle?
Yeah, sleep cycle.
Oh.
Where it, like monitors your sleeping and then like tells you when to wake up. And I don't know. It was.
I don't know. It's like I feel like it defeats the point of like true rest and meditation. Like electronics shouldn't be
I
present.
think there's definitely evidence for like to support that. Like at least the sleep cycle one actually does like help. I didn't notice a difference.
I used the sleep cycle app just for fun, and then like I don't know, it just ended up stressing me out because I'd be like, oh man, I forgot to turn on the whole app before I went to bed.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, I always set alarms plus the sleep cycle. And
I always set my alarm, but like it's just another step, and I just can't deal with that.
Yeah. And then the last one that we didn't talk about besides Venmo is called MyFitnessPal. It's like this #1 app, like one of the #1 weight tracking, like food tracking apps on.
I don't want to track my weight.
I hate this idea. Like, I just don't like it.
I have this like love-hate affair with it, but you can go first.
I used MyFitnessPal a lot in high school, and like part of what makes it really good, not necessarily for college campuses because they're not going to have like CMU food on there, but it has basically every brand of food and like the nutritional information on there, so it makes it very easy to track your your nutrition intake if you want to. That it doesn't 100% really work here though, because I highly doubt they have like the underground on MyFitnessPal. But I mean, it's still nice to have. You can another feature that's on MyFitnessPal is like you can input your own food, so you can like create a new food on there. So you could potentially put like an underground quesadilla on there and then like track that whenever.
But would you really want to?
Well, that first of all, but I think that's like I don't know, this is just like an issue with like calorie tracking in general. Like a lot of the things you want to calorie track don't have calorie numbers on them. So like when you go to a restaurant, like I feel like a lot more restaurants now definitely have calories on like their menus, but like the underground definitely doesn't. And like if I build a salad one day, like how do I know that like what the salad I build one day is the same salad that I built another?
Right.
And like just in general, I don't know. I think it's a good thing to be conscious of like your health, and like maybe doing it through an app is very helpful to some people, but I also feel like it can be very detrimental to others.
I think it'd be an interesting study to see how much shittier I eat when I'm here.
Yeah.
Than when I'm at
home. But that would be a
And
depressing study.
Yeah,
Well, I just want to take that study and
also like
shove it in someone's face.
the fact that you can like
Call pseudograph.
link up like a pedometer.
Yeah.
I don't want to have
I
so much
definitely
on my
I
body.
want to get a Fitbit.
I have a Fitbit.
I think a Fitbit would be way more useful only because it tracks like your exercise. And like
Yeah.
I think like your food. I don't know. I feel like food is such a commitment. Like not even like, no. But like it's a state of mind. Like you have to make the conscious effort. So like I
Yeah.
feel like if you're making the conscious effort, FitnessPal is just like a plus. But if you're not making the conscious effort and you're just doing it to track, like it's going to be actually very detrimental to like you and your health.
Yeah, because it's just telling you, oh, I ate too much today. I
Yeah.
ate too little today. But if you do something about it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's different for everyone. Like,
Yeah, it depends on what you're about.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
what you're trying to
exercise. I also don't sleep.
do. Okay.
Okay, so the next article we're going to talk about, I really enjoyed this
Yeah,
section
I
of
really
article.
did truly.
This one is called 4 Nosy Interview Questions You're Allowed to Ask Because the Answers Matter. And I think this goes back to like the whole Molly thing, like Molly, like a blessing. Sometimes I'm like, oh, Molly, what you saying? Like, girl. But like, I think this like affirmed that like what she's saying is right. And like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I would have like the chutzpah to like say all these things to like a person, but I think they're really interesting and like, as we move up in the field and like, but we still are young, like it's important to be asking, especially a lot of these questions.
Particularly because like your success or failure and how much you like the position can have so much of an effect on your career.
Yeah.
Because like the work I do for a position I really love is going to be very different from the position that I hate.
Yeah.
And so like finding the job that's actually right for me, finding a job at all is really helpful. But finding that job that you can really be successful in early in your career is such a really important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of being upfront, but like being polite about it and kind of like playing it off. Like the 4 questions that were asked, I think, broke into 2 categories. But the 4 questions are: is this a new position? Or are you looking to backfill the role? What are the expectations of the role, and how regularly are they evaluated? And then, like, can you grow in the company? And then the 4th thing is what made you excited about joining the company? And I think that's a really great question to ask people to really turn the interview back on them. And I think it's important because I feel like when you're interviewing, they're always judging, like, oh, we're looking for you to be interested in our place. But I kind of want to know, like, I really do want to know, all the time I want to know, like, the backstory of the people working there and, like, how they got to where they were, or, like, what made them choose where they are.
Yeah. And also some people, like, forget that, like, you're like they're interviewing you for the job that you want, but you're also like scoping out the company and see if you even want to work there. Like
it's a two-way street.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and it's like another check because like I've definitely worked at places where I could like honestly look you in the eye and say, "This is a fantastic place to work."
Yeah.
Like I can look you in the eye and tell you that like CMU is the perfect place for me, and like. These are the like as much as it sucks and as much as I bitch about the school all the time, like this is the right school for me.
Yeah, no.
And so like I'm willing to look people in the eye and say, look, this is why it's good for me.
Right.
And I've also worked at places where it's like I cannot say a single good thing about this place other than that they're paying me money.
Yeah, I think another good question to ask, especially of theaters, especially of like lower and regional theaters in general, are like the growth in the company, because I feel like a lot of people can get locked into these positions for so long. Like I have been in this is more like lower end theater, but like I've seen people stay in the same position like as a scenic artist for years and years and years, and it's like you can't do that for the rest of your life. Like you need some creative stimulation.
At least I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to know like about the evaluations of people and whether or not this is a new position or whether they're definitely filling it, because I think I don't know, because like it's definitely great to know like that there's growth in the company and that they're like growing, and if it's a new position, but it's a backfill position. Like how did that? I don't know where the appropriate line is to be like, why is it being backfilled? Like did the person like, is it an illness thing, or like did they hate the company? Were they fired? Like so I don't know. And then this is kind of a random article we're talking about, but the last one, excuse me, was this whole article about this Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven, and there was like recently a big copyright case about it.
And the copyright case is going.
Yeah, like it's going to court.
The article talks a lot about like the difference between an actual copyright violation in music and these two songs sound similar to a jury. Like, no, let's I guess it's copyright. Sorry, Led Zeppelin. You have to pay him $8 million.
Yeah,
and that probably $8 billion.
This really reminds me of Conan O'Brien, and he has a segment on his show where he has his band play songs that sound very similar to like songs that we hear on the radio, and they're about the same thing, but every word is like completely different,
Right.
and it just like it's like that like blurred line between like what's copyright, what's
Right.
not.
Yeah, and this has also been a thing for so long. Like in history, people have been stealing other people's music for so long and producing it, and then like the person who stole the music becomes the famous star.
Right.
Yeah,
But this is also like the article kind of closes with a the estate that is suing Led Zeppelin started out in the same band as Led Zeppelin, so that these two groups were together and touring together, and then they split off, did their careers. The other band is now dead, I believe, or has it's actually the estate that is suing Led Zeppelin now.
I think it's gonna. I don't
50 years.
I don't think
after.
it's gonna. I think if anything, they'll pay them a small fee and like move on.
Yeah.
Because,
I
first of all,
don't think so.
I really do. I think this just goes on for so long. I think
I think if they have a good lawyer and people who understand like copyright law, but copyright law is
but
so
I think the case is
complicated.
going to fall through at the end because like they were in the same band.
Yeah, but also you see here it says similar, yes. Inspired by, probably, but is it a copy? No.
Exactly.
Read
So-
the sheet music. Like, if you see the sheet music, it's not a copy.
But like these are people that understand music and understand.
Yeah,
like,
I think a good lawyer is going to bring
yeah,
that
it's going to
up.
have to bring someone in, probably. Like consultant.
I think I think it depends on which jury they get.
Yeah.
Because I think that I definitely know people who would like, oh, they're similar. It has to, it has to be this. It has to be stolen. And then there's other people who,
Yeah.
So that's our 10 articles. Thanks for tuning in, Bovers.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
and maybe somebody else.
See you as sophomores.
Ah.
Or on the next podcast.
On the next podcast.
Yes.
We play frisbees.
Yeah. And Frisbee.
Frisbee.
Hey,
Hey.
ultimate. Yay. Oh.